Arabic we say bugh. In English, it's about hatred. And this is something really that many things are a crime. You know? Many of the spiritual diseases we talked about are not a crime. But this is something that is recognized across all cultures and across all nations. And that's why we even have it classified as a crime. And this is hatred, bugh. And really, if we look at it, this is something that definitely we can do without. So inshallah, bugh, literally what does it mean? So it's about this loathing, hate, to detest, dislike, the feeling of distaste, reprehensibility, and a person who has these and generally it's a desire within oneself to restrict somebody, to remove somebody, or even destroy the hated object. This is bugh, and the reality of bugh. And everyone will agree that this is something that definitely we need to look within ourselves, whether it is existence, and if it is, how do we get rid of this very, very grave spiritual malady. Now, this is an interesting point. See, this propensity within us, this natural ability within us, there is that ability to hate. Now, and many of these things, a lot of it obviously because it's within topic, we talk about the negative effects, the negative implications, negative outcomes of these natural qualities. But there's also a positive side to it. And what's the difficulty is what we ask for in every salah. Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. How to get that balance, how to get that moderation of these abilities that we have within us. How to get that moderation, that it's not excessive, either to the right or to the left, and how to get that balance. And that is why it is so difficult to remain on the middle, the moderate, the balance, and the straight path. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked us in each and every salah to read this ayah, Ihdina as-sirata al-mustaqim. So this is within us. All these qualities we are talking about, these attributes are natural to us. Now how to get it right? So therefore there is a hatred in itself. Hatred is not necessarily negative. Would you agree with this statement? You agree with that? When do you think? What is good hatred then? In other words, yeah?
When you hate like a bad thing.
Yeah, of course, it's obvious. When you hate a bad thing, that's going to stop you from doing it. Any other sort of hatred that is sort of good? Yeah?
Love and hate for the sake of Allah.
Okay, you love and you hate for the sake of Allah. Okay, anything else? Anybody?
Does envy count as hate? Like envying someone who's happy for
Okay. Inshallah, envy is, we will talk about it more in detail, but I suppose you can extrapolate to a degree. So anyway, this is hatred. So see, hating corruption, hating evil, disbelief, murder, lewdness, and anything else that Allah has exposed as despicable. So that type of hate, that is natural, so we're giving character to that natural ability within us. Okay? One very important point is that there are hates that we should really hate, right? These evil, disbelief, murder, lewdness, etc. But Islam makes a distinction. And the distinction that Nabi of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, he never disliked things because of their essence, but rather their manifestation. Okay, what I'm saying is, I don't know if it's a quote from the Bible or whatever it is, but it's a very nice quote, that hate the sin, but not the sinner. So a person who has done wrong should we hate that person because of a person, his assets, or do we hate the manifestation of that thing they did wrong? And this is very, very important, especially in our day and time. That Nabi of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, when sin were committed, and there were terrible sins committed in his time, but these very sinful people, he went towards them with this desire that no, they are still worthy and deserving of love, of humanity, and showing kindness and compassion. And like one scholar has given a very beautiful example, analogy. He says that, see, when our child, inshallah, when you get married, Allah give you children. Now when your child messes in the nappy, now do you hate the child or you hate that mess that the child has made? Now because of the child made a mess, you're not going to throw the whole child into the bin. What you will do, you will clean the child up, and that hateful thing, that you will throw in the bin. And once the child becomes this beautiful, clean child, that same child you will hug him. And this is the essence of this. So this is very, very important. And let us not hate people. But, of course, doesn't mean now we must join them in sin or even endorse their sinful nature or their sinful things. But rather, in fact, I would think and I would argue that that person who is sinning, maybe he or she is more deserving of being more kind, more humane, more compassionate towards. And this, inshallah, is something we should try to keep in mind. So, when somebody, especially, there should be, when there is something, when there is this hate, when you want to expose it, then it should be for a legitimate Islamic reason, and that is towards corruption, evil, disbelief, etc. It shouldn't be obviously manifesting this quality, instinctive quality within us for a reason that is more personal, egoistic, or self-motivated to get some sort of self-benefit from. Now this is a very, very beautiful story, and I wish to share the story with you. Once the Prophet ﷺ, he was sitting with his companions, and it so happened that one person passed by. And the Prophet said to the companions ﷺ, if you were to see a person of Jannah walking on the surface of the earth, then look at that person. It was very high commendation. And the Prophet himself endorsing that person you see him just walk past, that person here just walk past, that person is a person of Jannah. SubhanAllah. Imagine the Prophet himself saying that person who just walked past, and he was an ordinary Sahabi. He wasn't one of those senior Sahabi we know of. He was just an ordinary Sahabi. So one Sahabi from the majlis, from the gathering, he thought to himself, this is amazing, So what he did, he pretended that he was having problems at home, and he said to that person there that I want to stay with you for a few days. And the reason was he wanted to see how does this person act, what is he doing, that the Prophet himself has said that this person is a person of Jannah. So he stayed with him, and he noted that he wasn't doing anything special. He was performing normal salah like everybody else was performing. In that time, everybody used to wake up for tahajjud. He was also performing tahajjud, normal Quran, tilawah, zikr, and whatever it is. He was going to business in the morning. He was coming back. He was with his family. Everything absolutely normal. So then he was surprised. And the Prophet was such sure that he said, that person passing by is a Jannati on this very earth. He said to him like that. So he said to the person, look, I just made up an excuse. I have no problem at home, alhamdulillah. I just want to, the Prophet one day, when you were passing, he said that you're a Jannati. You're a person who's guaranteed Jannah. I just wanted to see what special amal, what special deed are you doing? So this person said that, well, you saw, I'm not doing anything special. But there is one thing I do, and that's obviously something you can't see. And what is this? He said, every night before I go and sleep, every night, simple act, which takes maybe a minute, 2 minutes. Every night before I go and sleep, I check my heart. and I see in my heart, and make sure there is no hatred, no rancor, no enmity towards any other person in my heart. If I find that there is some sort of hatred towards X or Y or to any person, I remove it and then I go and sleep. SubhanAllah. Because of this simple action, just before. And we see it's natural, we're going to, every day you're going to get somebody, just driving from home, somebody's going to cut you and you're going to swear that person. And when you go work, then your boss is going to say something that made you upset. You're going to go to your class and one student may have said something, foolish or something like that. It's going to rile you up. That's natural. Don't worry. Everybody gets riled up. Person who doesn't get riled up is a very, 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 very rare person. But something is going to happen that's going to cause that sort of hatred to come into your heart. Now, what we need to do and ensure, inshallah, that we are from these people of the paradise of Jannah is just before we go and sleep, look into our heart. Maybe I said something to somebody I shouldn't have said in retrospect. It was in the passion of the moment, the heat of the moment I said it or I did it. And this is very, 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 very sad because remember, I think it's probably coming on the next slide or so. But it is very, very important because sometimes, and every one of you I'm sure would have experienced this, we say something or we do something in the heat of the moment that we regret, and we regret it for decades sometimes. I still remember somebody said to me, that Imam, my mom just passed away, right? But there's something that, and it's been 30 years now, well, she just passed away, but I've said something 30 years ago. I was young, I had come back late, and my mom just asked me, why were you late or something? And in that, sometimes it happens, I swore at her. And that thing haunts me. 30 years have passed, but that regret and remorse is still as if it happened to me. So, my dear brothers and sisters, this is just for controlling ourselves for a few seconds. Never speak. One thing, if you never speak or do something rash in the heat of the moment, don't. Let yourself cool down a bit and then do something afterwards. And this is a principle of Sharia. In fact, a Muslim judge is not allowed to give a verdict when a person is angry and inflamed. So anyway, how do we cure ourselves for this? And this is an amazing cure, and only one cure he has written today. And he says, the author of the book says so beautifully, that this person who has become the focus of your hate, what you should do is raise your hands and by name make dua that Allah give him the best of this world and the hereafter. So this person you hate and you want to throttle really, you want to get your hands on this person. Now the same hands you want to throttle him with, raise those hands and make dua and try it. It's very difficult. Make dua, Ya Allah, give him the best of this world. Give him even better than me in this world and in the hereafter, and see how much hate is left after that. First of all, to get your hands up, that's the difficulty. But subhanAllah, this is amazing. That this is the only thing he said as cure. That make dua by name for this person and not in his presence. When you are away, and make dua for him, Ya Allah or her, Allah, give him the best of this world, the best of the hereafter. So anyway, this is very simple, but really very effective dua. And remember, one other more lasting cure is the opposite. So the opposite of hate is love. So where there is hate, there is not going to be love. And where there is love, obviously, there will not be hate. So this is, remember, infinitely more powerful. This is a quality Allah has given that is much, much, much more powerful if we choose to use it. Allah himself calls himself Al-Wadud. And Al-Wadud is one of the beautiful names of Allah, which means the loving one. Al-Wadud. And remember, hate is the absence of love. bring yourself to love somebody, there will be no hatred. And remember this, this should be not extended to a certain type or category of people, but rather to everybody. And this is the Islamic teaching. This Bukhari hadith, Nabi Sallallahu said, none of you has achieved true faith or perfect faith until he or she loves for his or her brother or sister what he loves for himself. And this is what Nabi said. Imagine, none of you has achieved iman, true faith, until they love for their own brother what they love for themselves. So this is a standard we need to judge ourselves. It's a very high standard, but inshallah we can at least aspire to get somewhere close. And remember, in this hadith, Nabi Allah has used the word brother. Imam Nawawi rahimahullah, he comments that when the Prophet says brother, we should interpret this as universal brotherhood or sisterhood, which includes Muslims and non-Muslims. Like I said again, we hate the disbelief. Yes? So do we need to hate the disbeliever? And Allah Himself says, لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم أن تبروهم وتقسطوا إليهم إن الله يحب المقسطين. Who has stopped you from being kind to those who have done nothing wrong to you? Allah has not stopped you, so Allah is like rhetorically asking the question, who has stopped you from being kind to those who have done nothing wrong to you? Allah has not stopped you, أن تبروهم, that you be good to him, وتقسطوا إليهم, you deal with them very fairly and justly. إن الله يحب المقسطين. Definitely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those who are fair and just. And remember, when we talk about love, don't get too excited. What we say is celestial, spiritual love. And that is the true love, not the earthly love or human love. Just to make it clear. Anyway, that was the disease of both, which is we translated as hatred. The next disease, this is the poem, like I mentioned, we'll go rather to the, it's called Baghi. Like I said, you can see these are all ba, so it starts in alphabetical order. Now what is Baghi? Iniquity, injustice, a violation of right or duty. So this is what is meant when we say Baghi. And what is the essence of Baghi? Harming anything in creation without just cause. This is basically what it is. To harm anything or anybody in creation without just cause. And this is something we should try, obviously, to bring within ourselves. This is everybody who is human really aspires for this. And you know, this is something, if we do it with the right intention, inshallah we will reward ourselves. I was just thinking, you know, I was walking today from the hospital coming here, and there are literally hundreds of students, you know, walking this direction and that direction. I was thinking to myself that, you know, even if I try, is there any way I can benefit each and every one of them? You know? And I couldn't find any way I could. Even if I gave everyone I saw £1, probably wouldn't have enough money first of all. But how would I be able to? Everyone's just rushing to. Would I by verbally be able to benefit everyone? Each one I say hello, hi, or salam, just out of being nice to everybody. Even that's not possible. So I said, what is possible? I can't benefit everybody. So there is one thing I can do, and that is, inshallah, all these people that are walking, you know, this side and that side across Oxford Street, there's one thing I can do. I can stop them. I can not obviously benefit them all, but the least I can do is make sure none of these people will be inconvenienced from my harm at all. And inshallah, if we do it with the right reason, why not? Why won't we get rewarded? So the very least is that I don't say or do anything that will inconvenience any of these people. So if I cannot benefit them, the least I can do is make sure they're not harmed because of me, because I say what I say or what I do. And inshallah, this is, you know, this is something that if we do it with the right intention, like Nabi of Allah said, then we will definitely get the reward of, you know, of our intention. So literally, Baghi in Arabic means desire. So how does it relate towards the spiritual disease? It's desiring something to the point of transgressing the rights of others to attain it. So when you desire something, and you don't care whether it's halal or haram, whether you will step on another person's toe to get it, or even if you will undercut or overcut somebody with regard to it, then this is termed as a spiritual disease, and this is termed in Sharia terminology as Baghi. So you want to get something and you don't care how you're going to get it, as long as you get it at the end of the day. This is something really we should be aware of, and something we should strive to stay away from. What are the harms of this? Allah says in Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, innama baghyukum ala anfusikum. And this is very, very true. When a person has this quality of baghi, the first person that person harms is himself or herself. The first harm, and this is very true for all these different maladies. The first casualty of any of these diseases is a person himself or herself. And if you really think about it, that person who has so many spiritual diseases, how can that person ever get any sort of peace in his or her life? How can they get any sort of calm when they have so many different things? So the first casualty is really ourselves, and that peace within ourselves. So, and this is from Quran also, that the first casualty for this spiritual disease and for all the ones we have been discussing is none other than ourselves. So, if not for anybody else, at least for yourself, for our own selves, for our own sake, let us try to stay away from this. The author of the book has likened it to an intoxicating wine. That this is such a strong wine that when a person takes it, one starts to shudder when it is swallowed. And he likens this Baghi to this intoxicating wine. Why? Because just like metaphorically, the love of position, which is a major motivation, this impels some to wrong others. So just like this wine, when we drink it, causes us to shudder, etc. When a person gets this intoxicating wine of Baghi, then that shuddering, etc. will cause others harm. And like we said, to get that person's aim and objective, that person is willing to be vulgar to another person, to shortchange another one, and to do whatever it takes as long as that person's aim is realized. And this obviously is something that we should stay away from. Now what happens, person who has this, what are the signs, what are the symptoms? So this person is besotted with marking that person, his or her territory, and will not, that literal line around himself or herself, and will not, and always is worried about securing the position. Like when a person becomes a new boss, then a person wants to mark, I'm the boss, and will do, ridiculous things just to make sure that they show that they are the boss and nobody else can come around this imaginary line we draw around ourselves. So this is it, that when we start, and because of that, we say things, we do things that normally we wouldn't say or we wouldn't do. And also, the Imam mentions that, see, these power plays we see to acquire more authority or remove potential challenges to the authority or position, this is a sign that this person has this in his or her heart. And this is when a person feels threatened with regard to his or her position, when a person feels that by all costs I need to remove that person who will challenge me or my authority with regard to this. And a person who feels insecure about himself or herself, then this is a definite spiritual malady and a sign and symptom. There is something underneath that really needs to change. Now remember, what is the reality of this? Why should we stay away from it? What are the harms of this? Now let's just look around and see the most powerful leaders we can think of, and how they were fixated upon once upon achieving their power, how to remain in power at all costs, whatever it takes. Whether it means sending thousands to their deaths by wars, starting wars, or whether it means by torture or persecution, as long as they are in power and remain in power, they are not cared. So even the world's most, and even these people who are fixated on achieving this position, even them, where are they today? Where are they today? They may have achieved a little bit, but look at them. At the end, each and everyone's reality is that death is one thing that overtakes us. So was it worth it? Was it worth it? Doing so much wrongs just to remain in that position which we thought was threatened, and to do that, at the end of it, we were all together the same. Remember, this is always, death is the great leveler. All those we are oppressed in this world, and even the oppressors, each and every one of them today, they are together in the Qabristan. They are together in the cemetery. There is no one who is higher than or lower than the other. Not only did they die, but even their minions, who tried to please them and were always, yes sir, even they didn't live. So neither did the oppressor who tried to be fixated upon his or her position, but even those who were around them trying to please them, neither did they live. So was it really worth it? Remember, this is all power plays of illusory power. True power is not when it is acquired in this way. So this is a beautiful statement, and I've literally picked it up from the book because it's written so beautifully. And this is a cure for a lot of our spiritual diseases. What he says, Sheikh says, that the desire for temporal power, remember first of all, is a move away from Allah. That Allah we are moving away from, and He, who is Allah, the one who there is no power of might except from Him. So the one who has true power of might, and one who does give true power of might, we're moving away from Him. And it's a move towards His creation. And who are the creation? The creation are those who, in comparison to Allah, are impoverished. What can they really do? What power, what achievement do they really have? So moving away from Allah, who can give us that power we so want, towards the creation who cannot give us that power, and even them, those with this illusory possessions and authorities, they were protected like misers. So we think by breaking the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we try to gain closeness to them, or try to get what they have, but remember they were also protected. So this is the reality, the treatment of this disease and many of the other diseases. And remember, we spend our whole life, for this position of power, for this power play, and we wear out our soul, exhausting ourselves in this world, and in the end, some will be pleased and obviously unhappy, but others will be displeased and resentful. So all the people who we try to please, all the people who we work so hard to please, very few will become pleased with it. The majority will remain displeased and resentful, but the toll and exhaustion, the toll of the exhaustion will take place, will take itself over us, but there will be very little that we would have truly achieved. And what is the true way, like these different spiritual maladies, my dear brothers and sisters, what is the true solution to it? Is to realize these few facts. And these are facts. One should not expect the pleasure of the Creator when pursuing the pleasure of His creatures. So if we are pursuing the pleasure of the creatures, then we will not expect the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Similarly, remember, seeking the pleasure of Allah actually makes a person pleasing to good people. That if we want to be really somebody who has some sort of power in this world, then that will only be achieved through seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. it comes in a beautiful hadith. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has mentioned that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when somebody has done things, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes pleased with that person, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declares His love for that person, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes an announcement in the heavens that, oh Jibreel, so and so is a person who I love, so you start loving him. So Jibreel starts to love that person. And Jibreel then makes an announcement to the people of the heavens that, oh people of heavens, Allah loves so and so, so you start to love him. So the people of the heavens start to love that person. And when the people of the heavens start to love that person, then the love of that person filters down onto the earth. So to the extent, Allahu Akbar, it comes in the hadith, to the extent that even the fish in the sea and the animals in their holes start to love that person. And that's why we see also in the hadith, and even in the Quran it comes, that when such a person who was so beloved to Allah and the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then when that person now is no more on this earth, and that person has gone back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then these are the very same non-tangible, those things we can't even see. Those are the same things that miss that person. Have missed that person who used to grace their surface when he or she was alive. So this is the true love, and this is the true position we should definitely try to seek with regard. And remember, the reality of this is that this desire, this inordinate desire for position, for fame, for glory, for what? For what purpose? To what end? So some corrupt or miserly or power-hungry person may commend us? Is that what we are doing it for? So the Imam asked very poignantly that to what end is all this that we are displaying? And remember that the true honor and rank are forever linked with the status one has with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides for status for somebody, then that person will truly have true honor. And see this beautiful saying of a scholar. He said, if you desire immortal glory, seek glory in the immortal. If you desire immortal glory, then seek true glory in the immortal, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And like we said, for most of these diseases, there is one thing that we need to constantly remind ourselves, and that is our mortality. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has said, remember often the destroyer of pleasures, that is death. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam once was passing by a group of Muslims who were laughing heartily, and he said to them, mix in your gatherings the remembrance of death. So it's not that we shouldn't laugh, but together with that, we should know that prolonged amusement has the capacity, as he says very beautifully, to anesthetize the soul. It makes our soul like a person who is under general anesthesia, unaware. And because of that, a person then loses perception and focus on why the person has come onto this world. This is a beautiful hadith. Once Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, the Prophet's wife, she was asked, what's something wondrous about him? She said, everything is wondrous about the Prophet, what can I say to you? But there was something that I noted about him, that when the veiling of the night came, so when the night became very dark, and everybody went to their homes, then Allah's Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, obviously he would sleep, and when it was like tahajjud time, qiyamul layl, then he would stand up and he would be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a beautiful quality of a true believer, and this is what we should aspire. And this is a very wonderful time if we can manage. The time just before the sun, before Fajr time, because normally this is the time of Tahajjud, and this is the time when it is very quiet, everybody else is asleep, And if a person really wants to focus on spiritual progress, then this is the best time to stand up in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a certified mark of those who are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If a person is close to Allah, then this is the time when that person now opens up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you try it, my dear brothers and sisters, even for a little while, that when you get up at that 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, depending on the seasons, and you are in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is an amazing feeling that is just out of this world. This is a time, really, that the Nabi of Allah ﷺ had advised us to make use of. And Allah says it also in the Quran many a time. Now this is a very beautiful quote that he mentions, and this is the reality of this world. That somewhere on earth there is a door reserved for each soul. And one day each of us will walk through that door, never to return to this life again. Where the door is and when we will walk through, it is unknown. These are the unknown that we must live with. So remember, that is the door that every one of us will one day walk through. And this is the reality. We have to remind ourselves constantly, especially when we see that in life we are starting to lose focus. Where have I come from and where am I going? And this transit in between, what am I doing with it? Because our objective, my dear brothers and sisters, is definitely the life hereafter.